Watch those wrist rockets! Oh! Go, go, go! Yes! Crab droids! Crab droid! Oh! Oh! The coolest Star Wars mod of all time is back, and it's better than ever. Step aside, Battlefront 3. Galactic Contention has made its triumphant return to the delight and jubilation of Star Wars fans across the galaxy. After nearly a year of waiting, we have been blessed with not only the return of one of my favorite gaming experiences of all time, but a complete overhaul of the experience, taking full advantage of everything Unreal Engine 5 has to offer. Hey y'all, my name is Barlex, and today we're going to be looking at the origins of Galactic Contention, the behind-the-scenes work during the dark ages of its absence, and my first impressions and extended thoughts on the incredible return of Galactic Contention. In 2021, a mod came out for the hit military simulation game Squad called Galactic Contention. This revolutionary total conversion mod sent the modern-day military shooter through hyperspace into a galaxy far, far away. And it was groundbreaking. Seeing this trailer and subsequent gameplay on YouTube in my freshman year of college nearly brought a tear to my eye, as it was everything I ever wanted in a shooter. When I booted it up, my world changed, and I experienced some of my fondest memories ever while playing video games, traveling through the most famous and chaotic battles of the Star Wars universe. Whether duking it out with droids and avoiding air support as a clone, or sending cycler rifle rounds through the plastoid armor of stormtroopers as a Tusken Raider, the feeling this mod evoked while playing it for the first time is unmatched, and it's a level of immersion I never really got while playing EA's Battlefronts. The only thing that got me to the same level was playing the 2004 and 2005 Battlefronts, but the sheer realism and environment Galactic Contention provided immersed me so deeply that the mod even overtakes those two as my favorite Star Wars interactive experience of all time. Over the course of 4 years, Galactic Contention went from a hyped mod with lots of potential to a staple in the Star Wars gaming community with over 1,000 concurrent players, and this Death Star-sized project was being tackled by a small but dedicated team of developers that made it in their free time as it was steadily growing. Fans even started saying Disney and LucasArts should just hire this team full-time to make Galactic Contention a full game, and forget about EA's attempts at a Battlefront 3. It's me. I'm fans. I'm fans. As each year rolled on, new maps, new factions, and new vehicles were added, and Galactic Contention could not be stopped. However, in November of 2024, news hit the internet that shattered the world of Galactic Contention developers and fans alike. Squad announced it would be shifting the game's engine to Unreal Engine 5, and in September of 2025, it did, effectively destroying every mod that had been created for the game. I don't think it can be overstated just how big a blow this is to every mod team, not just Galactic Contention's team and player base. These guys do this out of the love of the game and for Star Wars fans, and the years of work before release and the ongoing updates were now incompatible with the base game they were built around. This dev team is entirely composed of volunteer forces, and now they had to rebuild the entire mod from the ground up on a new engine in their free time after working on weekends, and it's hard to justify missing work or missing out on time with family for something you can't earn any money from. With no other choice and no timeline for its return, Galactic Contention had to shut down. In the months following September of 2025, Star Wars fans have experienced a little dark age, as there's a Galactic Contention-sized hole in their hearts that no other game can fill. Don't get me wrong, I love the original Battlefront games, and the incredible experience is further heightened by mods. EA's Battlefront 2 is serviceable and can have some really fun moments, but it doesn't live up to the original Battlefronts, and neither game gives you the level of immersion and intensity that Galactic Contention was famous for providing. However, in this absence, some major work was being done behind the scenes. The Galactic Contention dev team could have just hastily rebuilt the mod to fit Unreal Engine 5, but they wanted something better. Unbeknownst to the fans waiting for its return, Galactic Contention's dev team was revamping things far beyond our hopes for the re-release could have ever been. Gameplay-wise, the devs made team compositions matter far more than they used to. In Unreal Engine 4, team voting was a little more about cosmetics than function. However, choosing your legion or battalion in 9.0, and especially if there's a specialization of that legion or battalion on the voting roster, it's important to keep an eye out for what that may mean. While the 21st Nova Corps is awesome to look at and a great battle group for a hard-hitting, nose-to-the-ground gameplay, it can be overwhelmed by an opposing army with air superiority. Conversely, if you put all of your stock into air power and troop transports, a unit with better air defense systems and light armor to fortify multiple parts of the map may hold their own better than expected. Some new factions that you can expect are Imbarans, complete with custom weapons and sounds you'll recognize from their iconic arc in Season 4 of the Clone Wars. Sub-factions are also a thing, and as I hinted at earlier, can really change the dynamics of a match. Be on the lookout for what each votable faction says it does and what map you're on. You could have a ton of extra air support on a map where you'd rather have tanks, or you could be on Bespin and let every soldier have a jetpack. Commanders are now available to have their own unit, corresponding with their battle group's lore-accurate commander if applicable. The devs added an HP buff and specialized weapons to make you truly feel like the commanding officer of an elite battalion of soldiers. The clones get people like Captain Rex and Commander Cody, and the droids get tactical or super tactical droids. The devs also gave vehicles a major facelift. I'm not going to go over every change, but I wanted to highlight two major changes. The UT-AT is now screen accurate with multiple variants, one of which serves as a mobile spawn with 43 seats. The droid army gets an MTT, much larger than their old Logi MTT, which holds 27 seats and serves as a mobile spawn. Just take a look at this lineup of vehicles, all of which got a graphical overhaul and added details to make the re-release of Galactic Contention even more worth the wait. Multiple maps got improvements or major overhauls too. Naboo got a nice facelift with more cover to navigate between without fully being out in the open, and Kavato switched its crashed ship from an acclimator to a Venator, with borders expanded behind the ship. Maps like Megiddo and Coruscant got added details, as well as additional paths to allow for flanking around major contention points and prevent bottlenecks. A handful of other maps like Kashyyyk, Felucia, Cested Equator, and others got minor changes and additions as well. Tatooine is nearly unrecognizable, with added verticality and a litany of new points of interest interspersed between the few remaining locations from the Unreal Engine 4 version of the map. There are big plans for changes to maps like Rinvar and others, so keep an eye out to see what comes next in terms of map changes to Galactic Contention. However, we didn't know about any of this until just before the release of Galactic Contention on July 31st. The first thing we saw was an announcement and a trailer. Our friend Bullwin put this trailer together you're seeing right now, and oh my goodness, it took my heart on a roller coaster ride while watching it. I want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to Bullwin, a YouTuber who not only put together Galactic Contention's 9.0 trailer, but also shared first looks into what we could expect for Galactic Contention's return in the weeks leading up to launch day. A good bit of the footage from development and showing the difference between maps is stuff that he put together, and I highly encourage you to go watch all of his Galactic Contention content. The interviews with developers and direct comparisons for the mod between when we last saw it and what 9.0 looks like is such a fantastic experience, and just great video making from him. After the launch of the trailer, Bullwin and Galactic Contention's dev team then shared all they'd been working on, completely blowing us away. As each day got closer to Galactic Contention's release, hype online only grew, and my brother and I informed our family that if no one heard from us for the entire weekend, it was because we were in heaven. Finally, on Friday, July 31st, in the middle of the afternoon, I saw my Steam page begin to download something. It was an automatic update for a workshop item on Squad. I couldn't believe it. The day was finally here. From its release Friday afternoon to when my eyes couldn't handle it Sunday evening, I put a little over 24 hours into playing as much Galactic Contention as my PC and eyes could handle. Needless to say, it's everything I ever hoped it would be. After cutting all that down to literally the bare essentials of fun and exciting clips, I still have almost 4 hours of gameplay that looks straight out of a movie. Before we get into specifics, let's talk about something incredibly heartwarming. After nearly 10 months of waiting, Galactic Contention hit 3,800 concurrent players on the release day. Not only that, but I was looking at the official servers and they were at full capacity with 100 players and almost a 100 player queue. I also saw dozens of community servers and all of them had massive queues as well. The hype was real, the wait was over, and everyone got to truly see what Galactic Contention was all about. As the queue subsided and I got to load into a match, I felt as if the galaxy far, far away had opened up right in front of me. Now, let's talk about first impressions. Loading in, the game looks fantastic. It's incredibly easy to forget this is made by a team of volunteer developers, and the transition to Unreal Engine 5 has paid off immensely visually. Some major highlights here are whenever you walk around a rainy Coruscant, fight through the alien jungle of Felucia, or trudge through the ashes of Kavato. Player models are faithful when applicable to lore, like the 501st Legion and 212th Attack Battalion, and excitingly experimental when playing as a unit not yet seen in Star Wars, like the 42nd Heat Regiment on Solist. Some of my favorite player model looks are the BX Commando droids, the entire look of the Imbaran Army, Galactic Marines in their Phase 2 experimental armor, and of course, a 212th Airborne Trooper. I mean, come on, my name is Barlex Live. This guy and how cool he looks was the impetus for naming my channel back in 2021. Weapons look great as well, and so do vehicles. However, the most impressive thing to me about how the game looks is how great the dynamic animations look. Blaster bolts coming through are immaculate, and explosions are mind-blowingly good looking. Take for example the blaster fire here, when I'm using a Z6 rotary cannon on Coruscant. The blaster fire illuminates the area around it, and as I'm shooting a tri-droid flying right at me, the entire thing feels more like a movie than a video game, and certainly more visually impressive than a community mod ought to be. Next, take a look at this dogfight between an Imperial LAAT gunship and a Separatist HMB. The way their fire lights up the area above me is gorgeous and awe-inspiring, and I stopped in my tracks just to look at it. And then I started getting shot at by a stormtrooper, which also looked incredible. Explosions here are insane. Here, I'm playing as the Empire versus clone troopers, and we just flew into a hot drop on the east side of a major clone holdout on Felucia. The LAAT drops us off as we're under heavy fire from enemy infantry and a clone gunship, and I watch as the two fight it out after taking cover from the fire. Our gunship is destroyed in the process, and that explosion looks like it could have been happening in the background of a fight in the prequels, like the 212th attack on Utapau. I mentioned the visuals as the beginning of my first impressions because that's the first thing you're going to notice is how the game looks. Now, let's talk about how Galactic Contention feels. For starters, you certainly feel like you're part of the Star Wars galaxy. All the aforementioned visuals combined with the game design truly immerse you into your experience, and with a far less invasive HUD than games like EA's Battlefront and Call of Duty, the arcadey natures of those games is replaced with a more grounded, intense feeling. I sometimes forget I'm playing a video game whenever I load up into an LAAT and watch as we get ambushed on the takeoff and squad mates fall onto the jungle floor. When you're battling Geonosians and you hear the iconic sound of their small arms as you see bugs fly above you, there is no doubt what galaxy you're in. The visuals, sound design, intentional HUD minimalization, and gameplay mechanics all make you truly feel as if you are participating in the great campaigns featured in the Star Wars books, movies, and television shows we've grown up with. My first impressions of gameplay were also phenomenal. Each faction has its own subset of weapons, with each of them being unique as to how to use them. What I like even more, however, is each faction and sub-faction plays differently as well. I mentioned it beforehand, but you really can't attack a point as an Umbar in the same way you would as a Special Ops army of droids. And even a regular droid army wouldn't approach an objective the same way as the exact same name of an army but with a different composition of vehicles and units. Even after a full weekend of playtime, I was still learning the details between each sub-faction and even the minutiae of the same sub-faction on different maps or versus different enemies. Firefights are also a huge plus. When you're engaged with an enemy, things are intense and they move quickly. If you think you can sprint toward an enemy and get a guaranteed kill, you might be right if you get the drop on them, but tactical, methodical gameplay wins engagements here. The suppression feature is one of my favorite mechanics from whenever I first played Squad in 2018, and it's only heightened by the increased stakes of Galactic Contention. When you've got blaster bolts, grenade launchers, wrist rockets, and incoming fire from enemy armor and support, things can get chaotic quickly, and seeing your screen reflect the fact that you're being suppressed really adds an extra level of intensity to a firefight. When things finally settle down and you go to confirm your kills, the tension is still through the roof because you don't know if you got it, everyone, or if your enemies have retreated and have baited you into a trap. I also want to address something you'll notice right off the bat in terms of your gameplay experience. If you boot up this game to get kills and see a number go up as you do, you'll be in for a disappointment, as you won't get a notification upon a hit marker or kill, you won't see an active scoreboard of who's winning and how many kills everybody has, and you'll even have trouble telling the difference between who is your ally and who's your enemy. You can see friendly positions on the map, and sometimes friendlies will have their username above their heads, but at a distance, you're going to have to be very careful. Oftentimes, if I see movement, I'll check the map to see if any friendlies are in that area, and if not, I'll light them up. This is especially helpful on Umbara, where you have a chance of playing as a 212th versus the 501st, and those orange and blue markings do not show up very well on the Shadow Planet, especially beyond 50 meters. Heck, I was the 212th and ran up on Captain Rex and a 501st Commando, and I thought they were my teammates until they started shooting at me. You wouldn't have to be 501st, would you? Yeah, you are. I found myself team killing on accident, especially when you play as the most confusing matchup where two tribes of Tusken Raiders go at one another. I had just taken out a group of enemy Tusken Raiders overlooking a point of interest, and when I laid down to observe the battle below, I began taking fire from a contingent of sand people. I set my sights on an outlier from the group and shot him repeatedly. I took a moment to reload and bandage and was informed that I team killed somebody after he bled out. That one guy on the outside of the group was my teammate, and he had pushed toward the enemies to help eliminate them. On the other side of it, though, is it makes firefights that much more intense and that much more rewarding. When I'm sniping and I can't get a single shot to connect, finally seeing a Geonosian drop to the ground fires me up. When I'm in an engagement and I see a Tusken Raider ragdoll after an insane snipe with my pistol, I yell like a tribal chief and cause my mic to peak for multiple seconds on end. Oh! When I'm in a prolonged firefight with an enemy and I finally get a connecting shot and watch their body crumble, it fills you with relief and excitement really only seen on here, in Squad's base game, and games like DayZ and Arma. If you've played Squad before, you're going to recognize core mechanics, as while this mod is a total conversion mod, it's still based around Squad and its core gameplay loop. The ammo mechanic is something I really enjoyed and loved from the base game, and the healing system with medics, field dressing, and reviving is a natural transition from modern day into Star Wars. There are some added bonuses and nerfs, like players getting back to stimulants or other small ways to self-heal, matching the sci-fi nature of the setting, and you also have some interesting differences in factions. While clones can revive one another, droids cannot for the most part, as it's hard to repair circuits on the go. However, a droid medic is now a mechanic that can patch droids up before they go down, just like a regular medic can on other factions. To balance that though, droids have unlimited stamina outside of larger units like a B2 Super Battle Droid and can endlessly sprint. These decisions on what to keep and what to change from Squad's base mechanics feel natural to play and make sense in terms of our understanding of the Star Wars galaxy. One final thing I wanted to note before we do a deep dive into some things I really enjoy about this mod is this. At the time of publishing this video, Galactic Contention was released 1 week ago. There are some bugs and some of them can be game-breaking. I encountered an issue on Solus where my squad had infiltrated a tunnel system in enemy territory and held it for over 20 minutes, but out of nowhere, all of our bandages stopped working, leaving my men to spawn kilometers away after my rally point was destroyed. A major bug I encountered was a complete inability to load into Coruscant for the first 18 hours of playing. Every time I tried loading into the game, it would crash, freeze, or just kick me to the queue as soon as I get to the part of the loading screen that says Coruscant. I had heard of maps being bugged, so maybe I figured it was a mod side thing, but then my little brother, who has a worse PC than me, loaded into Coruscant with no issue. I just figured Coruscant didn't work for me until I crashed loading into Tatooine, a map that I had played multiple times at that point. I then found out that this bug is caused by shadows being set to high on your graphics settings. If you've got them on low, medium, or even epic, you'll be perfectly fine, but high is bugged on a handful of maps. I realized my squad settings were from my old PC that I got back in 2017, and I never changed those settings on the PC that I built in 2024, so I bumped everything up to epic and had a grand old time there. If you're crashing multiple times and screaming like I was... WOO! Another crash. Look at what settings your shadows are set to. Now, let's take a look at the 3 pillars that hold Galactic Contention up as a quintessential gaming experience for Star Wars fans and one of the greatest gaming experiences I've ever had. First, we've got to talk about the scale of this mod. When I say the scale is insane, I mean it is insane. Before I get into anything else, I'm going to walk you through this clip. My brother and I were playing a game mode where we had to defend certain caches of weapons and supplies from the droids on Kashyyyk. It was awesome defending a spire from HMPs and shooting at tanks, but the thing here is this. After I died, the droids found and destroyed the first cache. My brother and I spawned at the main base, loaded into a gunship, and flew toward the next objective. However, as we flew through the map, I got to look at all the trees, the platforms, and the gargantuan canopy we were flying under. Then, we approached the next cache. It was inside a Republic Acclamator class assault ship. It was accurate to the Star Wars lore, being nearly a kilometer long as we made our approach. The pilot didn't just drop us off on the ground though. He flew down below the ship, up the ramp, and past Republic Juggernaut turbo tanks, and then I hopped out, rolled around on the ground from falling a small distance, and saw it fly into the hangar, where other tanks and gunships were idle as set pieces on the map. As we set up defenses for a last stand, we built a super fob in the hangar, with defenses on the outside while forces built up walls and outposts around the cache, complete with ammo boxes. I built up small exterior walls and warded off enemy gunships, and when they got pushed inside, I was on the front line, preventing droids from piling up behind cover or allowing tanks to get past the blast shields. Speaking of hanger blast shields, when they took too much fire, they shut down while the shields regenerated and charged before coming back online. We won, and the droids never breached or even approached our walls deep in the hangar's interior. This was quite possibly the most insane stretch of gameplay I have ever been a part of in my life. And it was in a mod that people made for free. That is the scale of Galactic Contention. These are the stakes that are being presented. Being dwarfed by starships up in the sky is one thing, but flying under and through a frigate is an entirely different beast. While this moment captures the essence of what I want to convey to you about Galactic Contention scale, it doesn't scratch the surface for all that's offered here. One major example is starfighter combat. Seeing gunships and starfighters duke it out overhead is something I've already mentioned, but a major point of scale is when you're fighting against them directly. Here on Coruscant, I was playing as the droids and hopped on an anti-air cannon. We were taking pot shots at gunships and starfighters as they took off from the Republic acclimator in the sky, but didn't really connect on much. Then an ARC 170 and V-Wing made an approach, and as we started shooting at what we thought was just another passerby, it turned into a strafing run on our position directly. This ended with both the ARC 170 crashing and the V-Wing going down, but an LAAT came in for support and flew away before we could destroy that too. Then, another insane thing happened. The Republic called an orbital bombardment on us. This is the next feature of scale I want to talk about, because nothing makes you feel like you're part of a bigger battle than blasts from turbo lasers in the sky or above the planet flattening everything around you. What's special here is that on most maps where you have the visibility of the sky, you see a physical ship fly above, ring out an alarm, and begin its volley of light as a 150-meter radius becomes nothing but carnage and destroyed buildings. One of the coolest things you can do in this game is just sit here and watch these strikes from afar. In my first full match playing, I was the 212th on Umbara, and I was wondering why the squad I had linked up with was running away. Then, a Venator flew overhead and started destroying our previous position, and I realized I had run away just in time. As an Umbaran, my brother and I had an orbital bombardment called in our position, and we had to lie down in a tunnel as our screens shook and our headphones blasted our ears from the explosions above and all around. Seeing these orbital bombardments anywhere is awe-inspiring, and I have over a dozen clips of just standing there and watching the carnage, be it friendly or foe. Orbital strikes have been seen in Star Wars games before, but seeing a Venator or a Munificent-class frigate fly overhead and lay into an area enhances the experience in ways that I struggle to describe. I want to briefly touch on the maps here as well. Geonosis is a sprawling desert complete with crashed ships, staging areas, and spires to hold out on. Coruscant makes you feel like this is more of a snippet of an endless planet covered in nothing but skyscrapers instead of just being a map in a video game. Renvar's snowy mountains make you feel so small in such an awe-inspiring way. Kavato's crashed Venator shows you just how big galactic warfare is and just how small a part that you play in it. Each map establishes itself as lived in, as believable, and as a gargantuan sandbox to wage war in. I could go on for hours about the scale here, but out of respect for your time, I'll finish this segment with an overarching statement. This is the first and only game I have ever played that truly makes you feel as if you are participating in a true planetary assault. Everything here just fits, and whether it's flying through a map, walking alongside a turbo tank, or staring down a cliff, you are reminded that you are part of something much larger than you, your squad, your map, or even your planet. I've already touched on Immersion a few times in this video, but I wanted to point out a couple key examples and points that make the immersion of Galactic Contention so intense. First, like I said earlier, the minimal HUD is pretty sweet. I honestly wouldn't mind it being further scaled down, but I know in the interest of keeping things accessible, this is the best of both worlds. And while the scale I just spoke on lays the groundwork for the immersion of the Star Wars galaxy, the small moments and the minutiae complete that feeling even better. In the original Battlefront 2, you've got 501st troopers running around with Galactic Marines and Airborne troopers. This is fine because this game came out in tandem with Revenge of the Sith, and frankly, the Star Wars lore hadn't worked itself out that much to that point. EA's Battlefront 2, however, lets players select their own skins, so you'll have Phase 1 Coruscant Guard troopers running around on Kashyyyk, and Phase 2 41st Elite Corps Scout troopers taking out droids on Coruscant. Having 20 different clone trooper skins on one game kinda takes me out of it, and while EA's Battlefronts are more of an arcadey type shooter than a deeply immersive tactical shooter like Squad is, it's still worth pointing out. While map voting can have some units on planets they hadn't been to, everything in Galactic Contention makes sense in terms of units, and at no point are you left questioning why somebody looks out of place unit-wise. and this goes for every faction. The gunfighting here also heightens immersion by a factor of 10. As I said earlier, you don't get little points popping up on your screen, and you can't shoot 80 rounds without recoil at one spot. You have to be disciplined with your trigger finger, and as recoil is definitely real, so is your lack of ammo. When you get into a firefight, the sights of the blaster bolts in the air, the sound of each blaster firing and each bolt whizzing past you, and the impact of each bolt hitting around you put you immediately and violently into the moment. It might be due to me being somebody who grew up watching the Clone Wars and playing the original Battlefront 2, but I'd often find myself so immersed and locked in that whenever I got shot at, or if an explosion rocked my character that I wasn't expecting, I would physically recoil away from my screen and shout out, "Oh sh*! That's a commando! Whoa!" Oh my. I need to mute my mic, because I'm not going to be able to I'm just going to have to voice over all of this. The best example of immersion I can point to is a 20-minute stretch on Sullust where our musically inclined pilot, Aqua, dropped us off at the entrance to a tunnel on the edge of enemy lines right after being the scouting party squad who was bunny hopping around capturing points while the rest of the team was setting up fobs and engaging the enemy. We entered the tunnel and immediately encountered a super battle droid. We had a prolonged firefight with that B2, having multiple of my soldiers go down and needing to be revived, including myself. My little brother pointed out that we were in our own Star Wars hallway scene. He was a clone commando and he flanked around with one of our medics as we laid down suppressing fire, and they cleared out the corner for us to advance. One of our riflemen shot our medic in the commotion, and after picking him up, we advanced further. The droids called in an orbital strike on us, and then pushed in from multiple directions. I will likely never stop getting scared when an unexpected wrist rocket from a B2 hits you in the middle of your squad, because it freaked me out. It was at this point that our bandages got bugged, so we couldn't pick anybody up, and all but one of us were taken out by a huge push from super battle droids, commando droids, and Magna Guards. However, I got a radio from the other squad leaders that because of our holdout, they were able to take 2 more points, as so many units had come to the tunnels to try and take our group out. The firefights, dragging the wounded, and getting patched up between taking pot shots at an enemy contingent placed me at the center of Sullust, and so deeply immersed in the game that I knew I had to include this moment as the highlight of my time in Galactic Contention. Finally, I want to briefly touch on the community. Every player I've encountered has been great. Whether it's dudes just having a good time, players making up new names for droids because Clanker is too nice, yeah. Squad leaders commanding their men to stay organized.
Everyone, look at your maps. New waypoint. Look at your maps.
Or people just genuinely and fully LARPing as Captain Rex.
Unload supplies. Rallies down.
I have seriously enjoyed all my encounters with the Galactic Contention player base. The first time I was a squad leader because our squad leader left and nobody wanted to get rid of their class.
I wish you best of luck.
What a clanker.
Cream pie, that's not nice.
True that.
My squad was patient and reminded me how to do the mechanics of building things, placing rally points, because frankly, I hadn't played squad or Galactic Contention in almost 4 years. When I unexpectedly won a commander vote and then immediately learned that all of our air support had already been destroyed and wouldn't be spawning in for some time, my squad was super helpful and the other squad leaders taught me how to call in orbital strikes and use the unique commander functions. When I told my squad leader I was showing a friend around who wasn't familiar with Star Wars and had never played squad, he immediately gave me fire team leader and let the 2 of us go out on our own to snipe and take the game at our own pace. When talking with every single person on launch day and the days after, the overarching sentiment was how excited everybody was to be booting up Galactic Contention again, and how grateful they were for the dedicated developers to bring this back at such an incredible quality. Now, I say all this praise for Galactic Contention while recognizing that things are still very much early in its return, and the problems very much exist here. I've had a few things about the game that can be a little bit bothersome, so I'm going to share some things I'd like to see improved. First, the Tusken Raiders, while fun, just generally take me out of it. Having weapons you can find in the real world almost completely breaks my immersion, and while my friends have called me silly for griping about it, I just really want to see cycler rifles and slug throwers, not Mosin Nagants and machine guns with their real world counterpart names. It's not an urgent change, but it really does take me out of it, and I don't enjoy playing as the Tusken Raiders if I'm not using the cycler rifle, and hearing machine gun fire when I don't recall Tusken Raiders ever having fully automatic weaponry, especially recognizing those exact sounds from the base game, pulls me away from the immersion that is so strong everywhere else. Next, I'd like to see all the specialized classes be true to their sub-faction. This is a very small fix, but seeing a 501st clone sniper on Geonosis be a Phase 2 clone when everybody else is Phase 1 took me out of it a little bit. It's not the end of the world, but with so much focus on accuracy and immersion everywhere else, I think a small fix to that down the line could be great. When it comes to vehicles, I like that they're complicated and unwieldy, but the TX-130 really and truly bothers me with how it handles. For a tank that hovers above the ground and is fairly swift in other Star Wars media, being unable to get over a small hill can take me out of it and frustrate me as the pilot. I'm fine if the TX-130 isn't as fast as it is in other games, as some competitive balance needs to be there, but I at least want to see it behave like a hovercraft and not a tracked or wheeled vehicle that hits curbs and bumps instead of gliding past or rising above them. Again, it's not the biggest thing in the world, and I don't know the codebase for the vehicles or what they were modeled after, but fixing that hovering and hitbox could make traversal on bumpy terrain or uphill much smoother and more accurate to what fans are familiar with. Map variety is a hard thing to fix because it's largely voting, but I'd like to see the Venator, Megiddo, and Kashyyyk more often. I only loaded into Megiddo once and the server crashed less than 10 minutes into it and before we even really got to start the match, so I never got that experience and I've been really wanting it. Umbara appears far too often in my opinion, and the 501st versus 212th game mode, while fun, also takes up way too much of that portion. I'd like to see more Umbaran versus clones, with the clone-on-clone battles being a rare addition. I get that people vote for Umbara often, but it made up a significant portion of my playtime, along with Tatooine to a smaller extent. I'd also like to see skirmish game modes as a votable option more often. An official Galactic Contention server went down on Venator, and then it loaded up skirmish because the player count was low, and being on a Corellian Corvette blasting Separatist clones as a Republic droid was wild and a ton of fun. Finally, let's talk about the bugs. Not the Geonosians, but the issues currently facing the game. Crashing and freezing on certain maps, having issues getting in and out of vehicles, and bandages not working are the only bugs that I encountered, but I've heard complaints of others. That little bit of extra polish could go a long way here, and I'm sure Galactic Contention's devs are already working on it. So what's next? Well, according to Bullwin's developer Deep Dive, we've got a lot to look forward to. A new game mode with destructible objectives, Hailfire droids, Juggernaut turbo tanks, and general updates to maps and weapon classes like the Clone Security Force Quad Blaster being an eventual addition to other clone factions, and additional points of interest on Rinvar and other maps are in the works. It also appears that the Galactic Civil War is something that's becoming more likely, with 9.0 offering Galactic Empire gameplay often and shifts in weapon colors and player models hinting at the slow addition of new factions. This may take longer, but man, am I excited to add some Galactic Civil War to the rotation. While I'm a Clone Wars guy at heart, the asymmetrical warfare of Rebels being put into the hands of the Galactic Contention developers makes me really excited at the possibilities for units, vehicles, and mechanics on that side of things. Overall, Galactic Contention is back, and these 10 months have been worth it to such an insane degree. The incredible return of Galactic Contention was well-timed, and its success online and hype on social media is well-deserved. The gargantuan scale, the layered and deep immersion, and the incredible community are pillars that hold this mod high above any other gaming experience I've ever had, and the small fixes that break immersion or can be frustrated pale in comparison to the sheer amount of greatness that Galactic Contention 9.0 provides. Putting all this gameplay together, I realized I had so many moments that I couldn't include in this video, but I still wanted to share them with you. If you want to see how it truly feels to play Galactic Contention, after the conclusion of this video you should check out the video, Moments from Galactic Contention That Feel Like Movie Scenes. It'll be up on my group channel called The Lumpty Dumpster, where you can expect games with me and my friends like this and others all hanging out and playing with one another. While the moments I described to you may be awesome, you won't know what I really meant until you check it out for yourself. Slight content warning, I got really fired up while playing this over the course of 24 hours and found myself swearing every time I got shot or missed a rocket launcher shot, so if you'd like to see me get very frustrated at silly things or scream my lungs out when a super battle droid shoots at me, this is going to be a great video for you. Before I wrap things up, I want to take a moment to speak directly to a few people. To the Galactic Contention development team, thank you. Thank you for the innumerable nights, weekends, and time away from friends and family you have spent to bring us this experience. I hope that the 100-player server queues and Buzz Online have shown you that your efforts were worth it, and they are greatly, greatly appreciated. To the members of the community like Bullwin who supported the developers and brought us first-hand looks at the mod's development, changes, interviews, and its return, thank you for starting a hype train that has yet to slow down, and thank you for sharing the details and the roadmap of a mod we all hold so dear. Finally, to you, the viewer, thank you so much for watching. My life kinda started sucking at about this time last year, and I had to step away from YouTube for about 11 months to finish graduate school and just get myself sorted out. Seeing how much support I've gotten in only a few videos back on the channel is humbling and greatly exciting, and I don't have the words to describe just how much it means to me that you're sitting here watching this video. I made a promise that no matter the success or the lack of it, I'd push myself to make quality videos that I'm proud of, and I've got a calendar of really exciting videos planned to come out over the course of the next few months. If this style of deep dive is something that you'd be interested in, consider subscribing. I'm going to be putting out deep dives like this twice a month, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Make sure to hit that like button to tell YouTube this video was worth your time, use some hype points to push Galactic Contention out to more people, and drop a comment letting me know what you'd like to see next on the channel and your favorite moments in Galactic Contention. That just about does it for me, so until next time, y'all take care.